Hello there, RPG lovers, and welcome to another video. Outward 2 playtest is starting on December 9th, and I got the chance to play this version of the game a little bit earlier. I already made a video where I talked about everything you can expect to find in this early version of the game. So if by some chance you missed that video and you're interested in Outward 2, you should probably check it out first and then come back to this one. In that video I talked about the new zone, the main quest, RPG features, character creation, new and old gameplay features, and so on. This playtest version is way bigger than I initially expected, and it kind of caught me off guard. 9 Studio is definitely underselling this quote-unquote demo. There are a lot of things to explore and discover in this new zone. One of those things is a new trainer called War Dancer, who can teach you some passive and active skills. Since I didn't manage to even unlock mana for my first character when I made the first video, I decided to make another video that's going to be focused on the War Dancer. So I played the game a lot more, got to unlock mana by discovering the ley line, and experimented quite a bit with all of the skills. Even though this early version of the game gets really buggy, which prevented me from making this video even faster. But anyway, I'm going to show you how all skills from War Dancer work and talk a little bit about this quote-unquote class and its potential for making cool builds in the future. Technically, Outward doesn't have classes because you're free to learn whatever you like from all trainers. There are some limitations called breakpoints, which won't allow you to unlock more than 3 skill trees to their fullest potential. So let's begin. When you first start playing this playtest version, you can easily miss this NPC who can teach you the War Dancer skills. If you just go to sleep in your bed, you won't be able to come back to the city of Habub until you complete the main quest, which might take you a while. So just make sure to click this button and learn all the skills as soon as possible. Now of course, this won't be the case when the full game releases, because you'll have to learn all the skills one by one. You need currency and a breakpoint for the strongest skills. But for the purposes of this playtest, 9 allowed us to just automatically get everything from this trainer, so we can test it out. I also think it's kind of funny how they didn't allow us to use these spells right away, until we discovered the ley line location. It's classic Outward philosophy, with a step-by-step approach to everything, even in the freaking demo. Anyway, you get 8 skills in total from the War Dancer trainer, 4 active and 4 passive skills. The skill called Influx imbues your weapon with elemental corresponding to the active elemental boon. The boon is then consumed in the process. Once you unlock mana at the ley line, you also get 3 new skills: Spark, Sigil of Fire, and Conjure. When you cast Conjure, you get a Frost boon, which can then be used in the combination with the Influx spell. Influx will consume the Frost boon from the Conjure skill, and you'll get an elemental effect on your weapon. But this won't be the only way to get active boons on your character. For example, you can use a Misty Potion to get a Mist boon, and then you can use the Influx spell to get the Ethereal imbue on your weapon. These elemental effects last around 5 minutes, and then you would have to repeat the process in order to get them again. Now here's where it gets a bit more interesting. Amplify is another active skill from the War Dancer trainer. As the name would suggest, this skill will amplify your current imbue into a much more powerful version. The only catch here is the duration time of this stronger imbue, which is very short in exchange for much bigger damage. So you can choose to sacrifice the total time of your elemental imbues for much higher damage. This seems like it's going to be especially useful against very stronger enemies, like bosses. It doesn't seem like a good idea to use it against weaker enemies, even when you're fighting a couple of them at once. Not to mention that you have to worry about your mana, because you probably find yourself in a situation when you don't have enough mana to recast all of the spells. Anyway, let's move on to another skill. Passionate Beats is a passive skill from the War Dancer, which plays a major role with these elemental effects you can get from the Influx spell. While your weapon is imbued, every third landed hit generates a blast of imbued elemental in a 2-meter radius. This passive ability is really cool and useful, especially if you plan to use the Influx skill a lot. Then again, if you just use Amplify a lot, you won't get the chance to see the effect from this passive skill that often. I guess it's up to the player to decide what's more important for their playstyles if they want to use the war dancer skills. And I think it's pretty cool that we get to make these little decisions. It definitely gives some depth to this playstyle. And this is only one of 2 trainers we currently have in the alpha version of the game, so I can only imagine how deep it's going to be when we get to mix these skills with other trainers. Then we have the active skill called Synscope, which is a dancing strike that inflicts the quote-unquote synscopation status effects. This effect is supposed to cause an elemental explosion when knocked down, but I never got to see that effect in action. This skill probably still requires some polishing, or I just couldn't effectively knock down enemies because of my stats. Nevertheless, it's a cool strike that you can perform with your melee weapons. It's not that useful right now, but I assume it's going to be much better with more updates. It also lacks a proper sound effect, but like I said, the game still requires a lot more polish in general. Then we have our first rune spell in Outward 2. This will create a short-lasting status effect, and this is only effective when you combine it with other runes, just like in Outward 1. Interestingly enough, there is another trainer in this playtest version that can teach you another rune spell. However, it doesn't seem like combining these 2 runes does anything, so we have to wait for more runes to see the true potential of the spells. Unlike in Outward 1, Outward 2 will require you to learn different runes from different trainers. Dancing Sand is a very interesting passive skill from the War Dancer trainer. When you successfully land 5 hits with less than 5 seconds between those hits without getting hit, you gain the Sandstorm imbue effect on your weapons. This effect doesn't trigger if an imbue is already active on the weapon. I think this is probably my most favorite skill from the War Dancer because it's very powerful and kind of tricky to pull off. This skill obviously works a lot better with fast weapons like daggers because it's much easier to perform those 5 strikes in less than 5 seconds. It will be something to seriously consider if you're going to play with fast weapons in the game. This is basically a completely free boon you can get from simply hitting an enemy without getting hit, and there's no need to cast a spell or consume a potion. We are still not sure if this skill is going to be pre or post breakpoint, but it seems very strong to me, so I assume you would need to spend a breakpoint to get this skill. It seems like a no-brainer skill to get, especially if you don't use other boons or you simply don't want to waste mana on other skills. If you like to play aggressively and you don't use other skills from this trainer that much or at all, you're probably going to love this skill. It's definitely skill based, because you have to try your best to not get hit while trying to land 5 hits very fast. I actually managed to get it twice in a row sometimes, and it looks like this effect stacks, but I'm not sure if that's how it's supposed to work. I wish to see more interesting passive effects like this from other trainers as well, because this is really cool. Untouchable and Ribbon Mastery are the 2 last passive skills from the War Dancer skill tree. Ribbon Mastery increases the power of imbue effects, while Untouchable improves defense and magical defense proportionally to how light your armor is. Untouchable is an interesting skill, but I'm not sure if I fully understand it. It seems like it encourages you to wear light armor, because it's supposed to improve your defenses. I think it needs to be better explained. All I know is that it works great with lighter armor, but I don't know if that includes only the chest armor, boots, gloves and head armor. I have no idea. And those will be all the skills from the War Dancer skill tree. I think I get the whole philosophy behind the War Dancer skills, and I think it's pretty fun. You have to decide which skill to use and when to use it, because you can't get every benefit from all of the skills at the same time. It seems pretty deep, but I still didn't play nearly enough with these skills in order to give you my in-depth thoughts. And of course, the possibility for creating complex playstyles is yet to be implemented in this game with future updates. Even so, it's a pretty fun skill tree to play around with. I assume it's going to be amazing for a lot of different builds when you choose to learn at least a couple of these skills. Anyway, tell me your thoughts about the War Dancer in the comments below. Like I said before, the playtest version is soon going to be available on Steam, so you can try all of this for yourself. And don't forget to check out my previous video about Outward 2, where you can learn more about this playtest version in general. I'm really excited for Outward 2, and I plan to cover it in depth, just like I did with the first game. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content like this. And if you want to go a step further, consider supporting your boy by becoming a YouTube channel member or a Patreon. Huge thanks to all my current supporters, and I'll see ya in the next one.